mustache wasn't actually that bad. Ant Edwards made headlines when he gave his take that players in older generations of NBA didn't have much skill and that Michael Jordan was the only player with skill. Former two-time MVP, NBA champion Kevin Garnett, anything is possible, took exception to what the rising star had to say. KG, how do you feel about Ant-Man's comments?
If I'm being honest, bro, I don't think anybody in this generation could have played like 20 years ago. If I'm being 100, and this is to Ant, this is to everybody in our league, Tatum, all y'all. Let me tell y'all something, bro. 20 years ago, bro, you couldn't get to a triple step back. We had efficiency lap back in the day, my dude, and it was so hard. It was too physical. And guess what? The league had to come off of it for the flow of movement to be able to have scoring go up, which is why we like to sit here and watch kind of the rat race of the high-paced game, right? I only think half these kids in the league could have been on an NBA team 20 years ago. Straight up.
KG and Paul Pierce right there. By the way, he only won one MVP. Wendy back here with us. Wendy, strong comments from Kevin Garnett. Do you agree with what he had to say?
They're disappointing because, well, first off, I'm feeling my age because I did cover the NBA 20 years ago. I covered the NBA the year that KG won his MVP award. I was a voter in that award. So I actually can relate to this, believe it or not. The reason I say it's disappointing because it lacks nuance. You know, Ant is guilty of lacking nuance and KG is guilty of lacking nuance because they're getting too much machismo into it. They're defending themselves. You know, Kevin Garnett was not a good three-point shooter because back 20 years ago, it was not something that you would get taught, and it was not something that was expected from big men. You know, you would not say that he was not a skilled player because he couldn't make outside shots. If you remember, he was an excellent mid-range shooter. If he had come up in today's game, the way Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren and those types of guys play, they're modeled on the great two-way play that Kevin Garnett was, added into that they need to shoot long-range shots. If KG was coming into the league today, he would work on those three-point shots. There's no doubt in my mind that he would have been a good three-point shooter because he was a great offensive player. Just like if Ant had come into the league 20 years ago, he would have known that the game was so physical and he would have had to play a different way. I know that it's more fun in arguments to take a side and say that the old guys couldn't do this and the young guys can't do that, but that's not true. The truth is that they're all tremendous athletes and that KG is right about something. The league was too physical 20 years ago. There were finals games played in the 70s. The league didn't like it and they changed the rules so that they could play the game more like they do today. And so that is just the truth. The rules have changed, but the players and the talent haven't changed. That it is unfair to everybody to denigrate the guys who came before or the guys of today.
Wendy, I get where you're coming from, and you're not wrong. KG may have gotten into his feelings because of what Ant-Man said. And I agree with you that things have to be contextualized properly and the nuances need to be, embraced instead of ignored. Players today could have played back in the day. I'm talking about the stars and the superstars. Yes, they could have played back in the day. Here's what KG and people like that are saying that everybody's missing, though. The reason why KG goes about the business of clapping back at Anthony Edwards the way that he did is because Anthony Edwards, who admittedly didn't watch back in the day, has no comprehension whatsoever of how tough and arduous it was to play basketball back then. And when he talked about the triple step back and how you wouldn't have been allowed to do that back in the day and what have you, he's right about that. He's looking at the style of play today and what wasn't allowed back in the day. And then what KG is asking with his basketball brilliance is, if you took those things away from your game, what kind of game would you have? It's not that you don't have a game. It's that your game is predicated on a significantly softer version of basketball, less physical version of basketball, with rules that have helped stipulate and favor more offensive-minded players than the rough, rugged defensive prowess of teams and players that existed in the past. So when he's bringing that up, he's saying, look at your game. understand that it wasn't allowed back in the day. You wouldn't have been able to do this. You wouldn't have been able to do that. That's what he's pointing to. And the fact that we weren't allowed to do that, but we still managed to be great. There's no young pup that should be running his mouth about what we lacked, because what we did enabled you to be able to learn to do what you're doing. And on that level, I understand where he and every other Hall of Famer is coming from when they're talking about the old school days compared to now.
I get it. I just wish he would be more of a leader and show Ant as opposed to clapping back at him, because he and Ant are actually very similar. They play both ends of the court. And that 5 guys in history have ever won Defensive Player of the Year and MVP. KG is one of them. Ant has the ability to be an MVP and a great defensive player. They're actually more alike than they are different.
Yeah, but he did clap back with information, intel. He didn't just say, hell with him, hell with the young kid. He did break down some basketball nuance that we needed to know.